Hey everyone, it's Nick from Better Business Bureau. If you've been tuning into our previous episodes of Brunch with BBB, you may recognize me as one of our co-hosts. But now I am really excited to launch the first episode of our new podcast, The Good Guide to Business. So to do that with me today, talk about our new show, talk a little bit about herself, is my brand new co-host, Meredith. Hey Meredith.
Hi guys. Hey Nick.
So welcome again to The Good Guide to Business, and this podcast is presented by the Better Business Bureau serving Eastern North Carolina.
So this new podcast, The Good Guide, is going to be all about having conversations with businesses, organizations, and local leaders who are really going above and beyond to make our community a better place.
So grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and buckle up, because today we're going to be talking about this brand new podcast and also talking about you, Meredith.
Great.
So we're going to start light, totally not a hard-hitting question at all. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I graduated from college last May, so a little over a year ago. I went to UNC, the University of North Carolina, at Chapel Hill. I know you're really fond of that. I studied journalism and political science, but mostly journalism. And then right out of college, I got a job as a reporter at PRE, Public Radio East, which is an NPR affiliate station in New Bern. Worked there for almost a year, and now I am here.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you, and it's really awesome that you have this extensive background in audio production. I think it's really going to bring a lot to the show, but also to what we do here at BBB in general.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, you know, the podcast was a big part of the reason why I was excited about this job, so.
I can tell you, my first year here at BBB, the podcast has definitely been one of my most favorite parts of the job, so it's going to be exciting to put out more episodes, and it's going to be exciting to work with you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Now, unlike me and some of the other members of our team, Meredith is actually from Eastern North Carolina originally. So what was it like growing up in this area?
Quiet. Eastern North Carolina is like very spread out. So there's a lot of little towns and stuff that have smaller populations. It's definitely, I guess the best way to describe it is quieter compared to especially like the Triangle.
Right.
It's a lot of like rural areas, a lot of farm land and stuff. Yeah. And I grew up in a military town specifically. So my experience is probably a bit different than people who grew up in other parts of Eastern North Carolina. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a place that has like a lot of diversity because it's a military town. So I'm really glad that I had that experience.
Yeah, definitely. My experience being out and exploring all these different towns in Eastern North Carolina is that there's a lot of different places out there. A lot of little towns, even small cities that have these very distinct vibes. So I think it's just great that we have you on board who can really help us expand in that area and kind of introduce us to these areas.
Yeah, that's a big part of my job here now. I'm based in Greenville, so a lot of my work is going to be, you know, getting us further into the east since we are serving Eastern North Carolina and getting a little further out there.
Now, I know I talked a little bit about, you know, being excited that you have this real experience with audio production, and you talked about your history in public radio and majoring in journalism in college. So what kind of experience do you have in the past with this kind of audio production?
This is starting to feel like a job interview.
We've already been there, done that.
I know, I already did this. Yeah, so when I was in school, I started out in print journalism. I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then I took an audio class and immediately fell in love with it and was like, never mind, print is boring. Let's do radio instead, or audio, podcasting, whatever. And I got myself familiar with mics and recording equipment and recording software. And then I got into a radio class where we did like a radio show for a station in Chapel Hill. I did that for a year and did a few podcasts for the Daily Tar Heel, which is the student-run newspaper in Chapel Hill. And then after college, like I said, I started reporting full-time, which was crazy. I learned a ton. I also got a lot of live on-air experience. So I know how to run a radio station live if we ever need that to happen.
Having that live experience is awesome. That is something I could probably never do. I would just mess up too much. And to our listeners out there, this is not live. We pre-record this and do a lot of editing.
Yeah.
So just so you're aware of that, there are hiccups behind the scenes.
Yeah, doing stuff live is really nerve-wracking, honestly. It was, like, always very stressful, and it never got less stressful. Like, I had stage fright basically every day that I had to do it, but it's fun. I mean, you learn a lot for sure because you have to.
Yeah, so. Definitely. And I'm really excited too that you can really help us with all this audio production we're doing, because there's just so many possibilities out there with what we can do with this kind of medium. And it's really exciting because we've dabbled in photo and video, but now you can really help us with this new medium that we haven't really done a lot with yet.
Yeah, and we're going to have video with our podcast now. So
we're going multimedia, guys.
Yeah.
It's big time stuff. So let's move away from those hard-hitting job interviewee questions, because I want to know some like fun facts and fun stories about you.
Okay.
Do you have any fun stories that your family tells about you?
So the only really great thing that I can, not great, but like interesting one that I can come up with, it's not really a story per se, it's just something that comes up a lot. Apparently, when I was a child, I was quite clumsy, which didn't really change much, but I was especially clumsy as a kid. And I don't remember any of this, by the way, so like as far as I am concerned, it didn't happen. But apparently I would like permanently have a bruise right here on my forehead, which is in the middle of my forehead for people that aren't watching, because I would run into things like like edges of walls.
On purpose?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember. But I guess it was on accident. But yeah, I would run into like walls or like corners. I don't know if I was just not looking, but that's what my whole family, both my sisters and my parents, say, that I always had a bruise on my forehead because I would run into everything. I'm like, I should have worn a helmet or something.
That is so strange. I've never heard of any child doing that. Like, I know people have to, like, baby-proof their homes and everything.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of anybody, like, always having a physical bruise from constantly running into things.
I mean, it probably wasn't always, but yeah, it was a thing. I was just not looking where I was going or something, I guess.
Interesting. Well, you know, despite all that, I think you're all there. You turned out pretty all right.
I hope so. I hope so.
I mean, when I was a kid, I fell off a swing set, and I'm pretty sure I cracked my skull.
Oh.
Yeah, like, you can feel a line in there and everything.
Oh, my gosh.
For those of you who can't tell. I mean, you can't see it if you're not watching, but I'm feeling it right now. There's, like, a little dent in there. I see you touching your forehead now, too. Like, do you have any marks?
That would bother me. I should if I really ran into stuff that much, but wow. Did you ever go to a doctor?
I don't think so. I just remember it hurting, and then I was okay. Don't think I had any lasting damage.
Okay. I hope not.
Yeah. So now that we both established that we may have suffered head trauma in the past, let's get back into it. If you could have brunch with anybody, dead or alive, who would that be?
We talked about this before, but this is the most difficult question ever.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And this is something on our previous podcast, Brunch with BBB. We would ask the same question. It was a little different. We'd ask them if they could have anything for brunch or go anywhere for brunch, what would it be? And people struggled with that, too.
See, now that, I feel like I could answer that a lot easier than
Yeah,
this.
I was going to say, this seems even worse. And I'm really sorry for making you answer this, because I know you've been thinking about it.
It's okay. I really have. I've been thinking about this for, like, the last, like, week, actually. Because it's just hard, like, picking, I don't know, people are people. So there's always, like, pros and cons to all of the ones that you might pick. And you don't want to be basic, either.
Right. And you don't want to pick somebody, like a historical person that might be a loud chewer.
Loud chewer.
Like someone who would just sit there and chew with their mouth open.
What if that was the kind of thing that they put in, like, history books about presidents and stuff? I mean, I guess some of them are. Like, there was, like, that president that they had to have the really big bathtub for.
Was that Taft, I think?
I don't know.
I remember hearing that Thomas Jefferson brought macaroni and cheese to the U.S., and he was really bad at making it.
Like, he was the first person to bring it?
It may or may not be true, but I think, like, he gets the credit for it, at least. But by everybody's account, I don't know, I may be totally wrong on this, I've heard that he just made like the worst mac and cheese.
Wow, imagine being responsible for something and then not being good at it at all.
Hopefully that's not something I can ever say.
Well, I don't think I'll ever be like the first person to bring anything anywhere. So I guess I'm safe with that. Okay. So my person that I would want to have brunch with is Judith Butler. It's a philosopher and gender theorist, and they wrote a book called Gender Trouble, which I read a good chunk of. I didn't read all of it, I'm not gonna lie. It was college. Who did? But
What?
No, I definitely did. I read every single book. Anyways, yeah, they wrote Gender Trouble. It's a very good book about gender theory, if that's something that you're interested in.
It's an interesting choice.
I know.
Do you know what kind of questions you'd ask them when you had brunch?
I think I would just want to like pick their brain about gender theory, because they were a big part in separating the ideas of like sex and gender.
Yeah.
And how people think about those. So I don't know that I have specific questions, but I think I would just want to listen to them talk.
Yeah, no, definitely. It sounds like they'd be able to talk a lot about interesting topics and really provide a lot of these insights.
Yeah.
Now, before we roll into talking more about the Good Guide and what we're doing with this new podcast, let's take a little moment and thank some of our sponsors.
This episode of the Good Guide to Business podcast is brought to you by Ultra Roofing. Ultra Roofing is a family-run roofing business serving the Triangle and surrounding areas with over 15 years of experience. Through our business, we cherish the opportunity to share our life, passion, and success with those that we love and trust.
At Ultra Roofing, we take pride in the roofs we install because our name and reputation are at stake. "We got you covered" is more than just a slogan. It's our mantra. We treat every roof we install with the utmost care. We don't take shortcuts, and we don't use lesser quality materials. What you say about us matters, and we don't take any job for granted. When you work with Ultra Roofing, you won't be disappointed with the end result.
Visit ultraroofing.net today or call 800-977-3110. That's 800-977-3110.
Now, with this new podcast we're doing, The Good Guide to Business, we really want to highlight these businesses and organizations and even leaders all throughout our community who are doing these extra steps to do good. You know, throughout the start of our new Catalyst program, we found that there is just such a great amount of businesses and even nonprofits just within our part of the state that are doing these kinds of initiatives that really are bettering the community.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that the obvious one that comes to mind is like environmental stuff. So businesses that are, you know, doing some really cool recycling program or composting or having their employees work from home so that they're not using a ton of gas and like adding to their carbon footprint or whatever it is. But I mean, it's not just limited to that. It's
Right.
also about like businesses that are doing a lot for their employees to make their lives better, their jobs easier, making work more fun, whatever it is, or doing things for society, volunteering for, you know, the thousands of charities that are in the country that help people in need and things like that. Anything along those lines are things that we want to highlight and show.
Yeah, definitely. And it feels like every day that I work here, I hear about a different business or organization that's doing something new, doing something incredible that is making an impact. And I always think like, wow, that's such a great idea. Like either I want to implement this somewhere or I just want to sit down, pick their brain, hear more about what they're doing and why.
Yeah, I mean, we're living in a time where like innovation is a huge thing. I feel like people for the last 20 years have probably been saying that, or
Yeah.
the last forever, I guess, have been saying that. But I feel like coming out of COVID, as much as we can say that, but like coming out of working from home, where everyone is working from home, people are trying to like get back into their offices or get back into their stores, start doing things more in person. There's a ton of innovation in trying to like mesh the two because there were so many positives from like working from home and doing stuff virtually, and there's positives being in person too, that blending those two, people are having to be really creative about the things that they come up with as far as business goes.
Yeah, you're totally right that we are really in a time of this great innovation. And I feel like, 2 years ago, all these terms and stuff that have come about, like, it would have not even made sense to me. Like, I, in the past, probably couldn't have told you about a hybrid workspace. But now that is a pretty mainstream thing that a lot of companies are pushing for and talking about how this is really great for the environment, reducing emissions this way. And that's just one small example that I've at least encountered recently of something that's new that a lot of people are doing, and it's something we can talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, on that note, it is kind of wild that something like working from home came out of something as negative as a pandemic, but now we have found all these like super great benefits for it.
Right.
And we can highlight businesses that are using things like that for the benefits that they have. So that's exciting.
Definitely. And I don't want to hang too much on the COVID pandemic, but it was also evident during that time, too, that there were a lot of systems in society and other things that people wanted to work to change. And we started to see all these movements and all these businesses taking different approaches to what was going on in greater society to really help their employees and also help the community. So that's another thing that hopefully we'll be able to highlight some, too.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're working on getting our first guests.
Right.
And we haven't had that settled yet, so we can't reveal who the guest is. But as this first episode airs, we want to reach out to you guys listening, whoever you may be. If you have a business that you think is worthy of being highlighted on the show, let us know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a BBB accredited business, if you're not, even if you're just a person who, as yourself, you're working towards some kind of cause, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you on the show, talk about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and maybe, if you're a listener, you'll get some ideas, things that you could help implement in your own life.
Yeah, that's our hope with this show, too, is it's not just for other businesses, business leaders to listen to, that everyday consumers can listen to this and learn about a new business that maybe they didn't know about and they would want to buy products from or services from or whatever it may be, that works toward this like shared goal of improving society as a whole, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a shared goal from what I found, especially here in North Carolina. It seems like there's so many networks of these businesses and organizations that are all working together, and we really want to be a part of that too. So if anything, I'm just really excited to get this show off the ground and to start having these conversations. And hopefully, too, really work with this multimedia aspect. So for those of you who may be watching us on YouTube or social media, get ready to see a lot more of this. And maybe it won't just be this new studio that we have. Our hopes are that we will actually get out into these communities, into these organizations, where we can have conversations in them.
So our episodes are going to come out every other Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I think it will be pretty good schedule because just from the planning and stuff we've had with this, there's a lot out there. A lot of people we can talk to, and I think that we are just going to be rolling with these episodes.
Yeah, there's definitely no lack of innovation, no lack of social responsibility in the business world in North Carolina, so we're solid on that. And I know I'm new, so again, my name is Meredith Radford. To you guys listening, I'm super excited to be at BBB. I just started 2 months ago, almost 2 months ago, I guess now. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just really excited to get this podcast rolling and get working out in the East, spreading the good word about BBB and helping businesses.
Yeah, there's a lot exciting stuff that we have planned, not just with the podcast, but with BBB. So if you're staying tuned, I'm sure you'll see more of that too. So I think it's about time that we close things out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this first episode of The Good Guide to Business.
Follow us on social media at BBB Eastern NC. That's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. It's all BBB Eastern NC. And you can find the podcast on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever else you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, well, again, that's it. That's all we have today. Meredith, thank you again. And to our listeners out there, stay safe. See you guys next time.
Bye.